What I'd like to talk about today, again, I'm Vicken Karageozian, I'm the CEO and president of Allegro Ophthalmics. What I'd like to update everybody on today is our anti-integrin program in front and back of the eye diseases. So Allegro is a private biotech company based in Southern California. It's been around for about 8.5 years. We have a very experienced management team with lots of expertise in ophthalmic drug development. Risuteganib or Luminate is our lead asset in retina. We just completed a couple of months ago our first US phase 2 study in dry macular degeneration, which we'll talk about briefly. We have multiple phase 2 studies in DME in the US we've also completed successfully. And we have a front of the eye program, a topical eye drop, ALG1008 for dry eye disease. Here's our portfolio here. And again, risuteganib or Luminate is our lead asset in retina. Dry AMD, we finished our first phase 2 study in the US. We announced in a press release about 6 weeks ago that the study met its primary endpoint, showing for the first time in a double-masked US placebo-controlled study reversal of vision loss as a primary endpoint. We have multiple phase 2 studies in DME that have been successful, and then we presented at ASRS our topical eye drop for dry eye. With multiple collaborations across the United States, most of the preclinical work for this drug has come from, especially in dry macular degeneration, from Glenn Jaffe's lab at Duke, Barry Cooperman's lab at UC Irvine, and also Peter Campochiaro's lab at Hopkins. What they've been able to show and how this works with this anti-integrin portfolio is that in retina, you get a robust anti-complement 3 effect, you get a robust reduction of mitochondrial reactive oxygen species and improvement of mitochondrial bioenergetics. What all that translates into is that if you can catch retinal tissue while it's still viable but offline, you can bring it back online and recover visual function by turning off the underlying inflammation and improving the bioenergetics of the tissue as long as it's not too far gone. Our US phase 2 study, which finished about 2 months ago, was a US double-masked, placebo-controlled 7-site study from Southern California to Florida. Trial runners, Patrick's group was the CRO for the study. Duke was the reading center for the study. Basically, the study had 1 milligram risuteganib injected twice intravitreally over a 32-week period versus a sham control. The pre-specified primary endpoint was a 1.5, 8 letters of visual acuity ETDRS recovery. We met our primary endpoint. We announced in a press release with statistical significance. Other efficacy endpoints were looking at distribution of vision, wet AMD conversion, microperimetry color vision, low luminance, and everything else, including safety. The drug has been very well tolerated in close to 400 intravitreal injections across multiple doses. Again, we announced in a press release about 6 weeks ago. This data has not been presented yet. I'm going to keep it very high level because Dr. Kaiser is going to be presenting this data on Saturday morning at around 8:30. But again, we met our primary endpoint where 48% of the patients that were treated with 2 injections of risuteganib intravitreally had at least an 8-letter or more improvement in ETDRS visual acuity versus the sham at 7%, which was statistically significant strongly. All the other secondary endpoints are still being evaluated, like microperimetry, OCT color vision. There were no SAEs, drug-related SAEs. Again, Dr. Kaiser is presenting on Saturday morning. Turning our attention very briefly to front of the eye, we have a new front of the eye drop as well, ALG1008. Comes from the same family of anti-integrin peptides. This mechanism of action works by inhibiting T-cell attachment and migration across the cornea. This data was presented at ASRS by Dr. Donenfeld about 2 months ago. Unlike the dry AMD study, which was done in the US, this is an earlier study. This was done ex-US. It's a single-site, open-label, 40-patient dose escalation study. But what the study showed for being the first in human study was we got a robust signal. We took patients with moderate dry eye disease, the typical signs and symptoms that you'd measure for outcome success and safety, of course. And what we found with this topical eye drop was that you got a robust efficacy signal. Multiple signs, multiple symptoms were strongly statistically significant with a nice dose response curve, no AEs, and excellent tolerability. We have a second exploratory phase 2 ex-US study in dry eye also ongoing now that'll read out by the end of the year. So in summary, again, we're a biotech company focused on both front and back of the eye diseases with our anti-integrin portfolio. ALG1007 is moving forward in dry eye disease. Risuteganib or Luminate is moving forward in the first U.S. study finished in dry AMD, meeting its primary endpoint of recovery of visual acuity of 8 or more letters pre-specified in the study. Dr. Kaiser is presenting the full data set for the first time Saturday morning at 8:30. Thank you.